Hello and welcome to this portion of Active Living. Today we're very fortunate to have Dr. Master Mateo with us. Dr. Master Mateo is one of the prime movers of putting together the Orion Veterans Memorial. Welcome to our show, Doctor.
Thank you, George.
We want to just discuss a little bit of the background of the Orion Veterans Memorial and talk a little bit about the process of the building of the memorial, and also about some of the trials and tribulations you've gone through. But mostly we want to talk about some of the things that are represented in the memorial.
Certainly.
So, when did you actually start this project?
It was at Children's Park, 1994, I believe, and it was the 50th anniversary of D-Day.
Wow. Okay.
And that was the motivating factor to do something more in honor of our veterans of World War II, which is the biggest war in the world.
And how many people did you have actually involved in starting up this project?
Just a handful of interested people, maybe 4 or 5.
Okay.
And I was on the board of directors of the Orion Chamber of Commerce, and they gave me the job of beautification. And I think flowers and baskets hanging from lampposts are just wonderful. But I did have a different idea, and that was the construction of a veterans memorial to honor the veterans of not only our area, but also those of our nation.
Well, it certainly is a worthwhile project. And like we were talking before the show, one of the things we talked about is having the opportunity to interview several of the veterans in the area, and those people will be shown on ONTV around Memorial Day. But we'd like to get to the process of getting this memorial put together and what it took to really get the project started and underway.
Well, that just an idea in all of our heads isn't good enough, as you know. You got to start putting it into action. And we never built a memorial before, so we didn't know where to start, how to do it, and what goes into something of a project like this. We didn't have a home, that is to say, any place to build it.
Right.
And so we prevailed on people like the leaders in our community. At that time, the supervisor, I believe, was Doug Brown.
Sure.
And he being a Marine, we had no problem in saying, Doug, we want to build a memorial.
Right.
How can you help us? And he says, I'll do anything I possibly can. And he certainly help us get the ball rolling.
Well, I know he still has the Marine flags flying out in front of his house.
Well, you know what I mean then. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Once a Marine, look out.
I know.
But anyhow, we had to go to land. We found out the property we were interested in was where it is now,
right.
But it was owned by the Michigan Department of Transportation. And we thought, oh, this would be wonderful. If we could convince them of building a memorial, we could buy it for $1 like they did in the old days.
Right.
And so forth. They said those days are long gone. you got to present something from a state qualified realtor and present it to the legislature up in Lansing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had to get the Chamber of Commerce, the president of that organization, together with a representative from our area, who was Matt Danaskis at the time,
Sure.
Senator Danaskis. And so a group of us went to Lansing to prevail on the Michigan Department of Transportation to please allow us to buy this at a decent price.
Right.
And of course, that property is very, very valuable.
Sure.
Well, anyhow, after a year's work from Dean Appraisal Company, which is no longer in business, it's owned by a different person, of Birmingham, who donated their expertise, by the way. It took us a year to put all of that together,
Wow.
present it to Michigan Department of Transportation, and they agreed to allow us to go ahead with it for the cost of $39,000, which was still a bargain, but it was $39,000 back in those days we had to come up with.
That 4 guys didn't have.
Exactly. So anyhow, the township board of trustees, God bless them, they put their blessing on this project, and it began that way.
Great.
As time went on, we bought the property next to it, thanks to Larry Obrecht, who was commissioner at the time.
Right.
And Larry told us how we could purchase the next parcel.
Right.
And that's the way it is to this day. If we had just the parcel we had to begin with, it wouldn't command nearly the attention that it does right now.
Right. Right.
So thanks to Larry Obrecht on that. And as you can see, the dovetailing of different volunteers and people of interest came together right in the beginning.
I know I've been driving by there in the last couple of weeks, and there's been several veterans out there working on the platform that's being built, the stage that's being built out there.
Oh yeah.
So those guys are really into it.
Very, very much so.
So now that you have this thing approved, what kind of planning did you do to come up with the overall plan for the memorial?
Well,
Because I know there's a lot of different pieces there, and they all mean something very special to a lot of veterans.
I have to go right back to our architect, Leonard Else. Leonard I knew from years ago, and he had some ideas, and God bless Leonard too, because he went all around the area, taking samples of construction and materials, and he found out that this is the gravel capital of the world. Yeah. So he came up with a portfolio of what he thought we should use, and that's why you see fieldstone out there.
Right.
It represents the area. And then he also said, well, you're going to have some killed in action veterans. You're going to have this, yes. So what he did, he orchestrated the walls in his drawings that you see, and this represents an outside cathedral, which later on was blessed by priests, ministers, and rabbis. Wow. And so that's sacred, blessed ground. And then I went on to research all the other memorials at that time, and we thought we would want to honor the military branches of service, which is one wall.
Right.
It's got the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Coast Guard, and even the Merchant Marine, which hardly anybody remembers. But in World War II, the Merchant Marine were very big. Matter of fact, percentage-wise, they lost more personnel than any other branch of service.
I was just reading the other day where I think they lost something like 1,500 ships in the Atlantic alone.
That's correct. I don't know that number, but they lost a lot.
It's a big number.
That's true. And then he wanted to, of course, we had to have a wall of the benefactors,
right?
The people who are so involved in constructing this, both in many ways, not only just money, but also work, and as well as planning and help and maintenance and so forth, as you can imagine. The third wall, we wanted to recognize our fight for freedom. And all of these walls were commanded many hours in meetings at the board of directors for years, just years, to try to find out the best of everything.
Right.
We later on, Joe Zekwich, Joe, a World War II veteran, had a very unfortunate accident which he lived through. In World War II, a kamikaze Japanese airplane exploded on his aircraft carrier called the USS Lexington, and Joe got a piece, and 44 of his comrades were killed, and they buried him over the rail into the ocean, right, as was normal. But he never forgot that scene. He was so impressed, he wanted to do something more. And years later, he came up with the Peacoat Monument. This represents the military personnel who were lost or buried at sea, and in their honor.
Right.
So he has the peacoat draped over a chair with the Navy cap sitting on the seat of the chair, known as the Peacoat Monument, in honor of the military personnel lost or buried at sea.
And I understand that all the names of the people that were on his ship are also that were killed were also on that monument. Is that correct?
That's not the monument, but they're engraved in bricks, all 44 of them.
Okay.
They're engraved in special blue-gray bricks, the only blue-gray bricks in the whole memorial.
Wow.
And with their names on them. One of those bricks, by the way, is Kinnick of Iowa.
Okay.
Kinnick was the second Heisman Trophy football player in our football history.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes.
So in addition to you've got the Peacoat Monument. In addition to that, you also have a very outstanding monument right in the center of the memorial, which is the family. Can you
Right.
tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, absolutely. This is called for years, the board could not agree on what to put into the center monument.
Mm-hmm.
We discussed an airplane. We discussed a battleship. We discussed an aircraft carrier. We discussed a tank, and all of those things. And the more we discussed them, the more we couldn't agree on any one thing, till finally we all came together unanimously and said, we don't need articles of war. What we need are the most important thing, and that's the family unit.
Right.
And we did agree on that, as you can see. And we came up with the idea first of a soldier going off to war. Well, and then we had the soldier coming home from war. We didn't want to go one way or the other. So finally, we put them together.
Right.
And
okay.
we call that the family unit. The mother hugging the soldier.
Right.
You leave it up to the viewer to interpret it.
Mm-hmm.
Is the soldier coming home or going away? His little sister with her arm around his waist, hugging him.
Right.
The father standing behind the mother, hugging the son. And so this represents the soldier either going away or coming home.
This is a fantastic. I look at that and I just kind of tear up when I see it.
Good.
It's,
that's what it should do, George.
Yeah, it's a great memorial. Now, in addition to that, are there any other things at the memorial that are important?
Well, the engraved bricks on which everybody walks, a fantastic lesson in history. We've got names of battleships, airplanes, people, the veterans. And looking into this, people can go back into the Revolutionary War. We've got one family there from representatives from the Revolutionary War in 1777.
Wow.
On to the Civil War, on to World War I, on to World War II, on to Vietnam.
Wow.
That's one family. That's the Parkhurst family.
Parkhurst. I think I talked to a Mr. Parkhurst.
Probably Jim.
Yes,
That's
I
right.
did.
Oh, Jim.
Yes, I did.
I can't praise Jim enough. He's got a military uniform museum up in Oxford.
We have a half-hour program that we've done on museums.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's going to be part of our series.
He has spent years putting that together.
It's a great museum.
Yeah.
Well, our time is getting very short, and what I want to do is basically thank you for coming in and talking to us here at ONTV and talking to us about the Orion Memorial. It's a fantastic. If you haven't been out there, ladies and gentlemen, you should absolutely visit it. It is a great memorial. So thank you for joining us today. Appreciate it.
George, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ed Ratzenberger. The Orion Center has a Seniors Advisory Council. It is a group of 12 people who volunteer to help the Orion Center staff with their efforts to provide the programs and services of the Orion Center for the seniors of our community. The center would like your assistance in order to help determine the activities and services that seniors prefer. The center is a comfortable and enjoyable place for you to visit, to meet with your friends, and to make new friends. You're welcome to provide your suggestions for activities and services, for your general observations, for your complaints, and for your positive comments. If you would like to give your thoughts to the Advisory Council, please stop by the Orion Center and deposit your comments in one of the blue boxes that the Advisory Council has made available. If you want to include your contact information, we will respond to you within a few days. Or if you prefer, we also welcome and value anonymous comments. All contributions will be discussed. We hope you will respond, and we thank you in advance for your help. It is a pleasant place to enjoy and does not cost a penny to be a member. Membership in the seniors group is free. Thank you for your time. We look forward to hearing from you and to meeting you. Take care.
Welcome back to this portion of Active Living. We're very fortunate to have another member of the Vietnam veterans here with us today. His name is Randy Stetson. Welcome, Randy.
Thank you for having me.
And we'd like to talk to you a little bit about your military experience. I know that you were in Vietnam, and you're very active with the VFW located up in the Oxford area.
Yes.
And so tell us, when did you join the service?
I was drafted. So I didn't have a choice, so I had to go in. But I did like the Army. It was a good experience for me. I mean, even though the action that I've seen, it wasn't the best part of it, but
right.
But all in all, it was a good spot to be in.
So when did you go in? What year was this?
I went in I was drafted in 1968.
Okay.
And I went through training Fort Knox, Kentucky. Then I had advanced training in Fort Polk, Louisiana, which at that time they called it the Little Vietnam. It was the worst place a soldier could go, but it was the best training.
Really? So when you talk about advanced training, I assume this is advanced combat training.
Yes, yeah.
And what do you learn there? I mean, do you learn to use different weapons, or?
Pretty much we learned all hand weapons that are in by the United States Army or the defense, whatever they have, we learned to operate those particular weapons.
Right.
At that time, because now they're really sophisticated, but at that time they were sophisticated too. So, but we've learned a lot by operating those weapons. So, M14s, M16s, Law, M79s, AK-47s. We had to learn on them too.
Okay.
So
Now, in the advanced training, you said it was kind of like the worst place you could be. Is this like a simulated Vietnam with like a jungle type of environment?
Yes, it was a jungle type of environment. You had to go through. If you got caught going through the approaching an enemy bunker or whatever, or the village, and you got caught, they would put you through like a semi-torture type of thing. So you wouldn't want to get caught. So.
Okay. Okay, so you go through the advanced training. Now what happens?
Well, after advanced training, that's when you more or less receive your orders as to where you're going to go.
Right.
And I was hoping I'd go to Germany.
Yeah.
But I didn't go to Germany. I knew I was going to go to Vietnam, and I went to Vietnam. I landed in Vietnam in tail end of '68, and I landed in Bien Hoa.
Okay.
That was our area of operation. We had area of operation which was War Zone D and War Zone C we operated in. And I was under the command of, you've heard of General Patton in World War II?
Oh, yeah.
Old Blood and Guts?
Yes.
Well, I was under his son.
Really?
Yes.
And his son is probably trying to outdo his dad, right?
Well, he did a good job. I don't think he could outdo him, but he did a very good job. He wound up as a general too, but at that time he was only a colonel.
Okay.
And I had a lieutenant in the Army who was my lieutenant. He wound up as the Secretary of the Army under Bush II. I'm not sure if he was 42 or 41.
Okay.
But he wound up as Secretary of the Army. So I was really impressed when I found that out.
So you taught him well.
Yeah, I guess, or he taught me either way. But he was a good man.
So now you land there, and I assume you're assigned to a division of some type or a company?
Yes, I was assigned to the 11th Air Cab, which is a special operations unit. Basically, over there at the time, the particular part of it that I was in was called an ARP, or an Long Range Reconnaissance Patrol.
Okay.
I wound up in that particular type of unit. I didn't know I was going to wind up in that unit,
okay,
but I did volunteer for it. And I remember going into the finance department in Vietnam, and I was with my two other guys there that I was with, and these other guys come in, and they got these camouflage uniforms on, and I'm looking at it, and I said, hey, look at those guys, man, they really been through the battle, you know, or whatever. And then they look at the finance officer, then he looks at us, and he starts walking over to us, and he walks over to us, and he says, welcome. So that was a unit that I wound up in. So,
when you say advanced reconnaissance, that means that you go out in advance of any combat action that's going to be taking place.
Right. We were a recon outfit. Basically, our area of operation, we had to be airlifted with a helicopter into the areas what we went into to recon and work our way in and find out any type of enemy activity. If we found an activity, either we would hold our ground or not be seen, hopefully. But
Right.
most of the times we were seen and hold our ground, and then we'd radio in for heavier artillery or whatever they'd pull us out, and then we'd wind up going somewhere else.
So basically, you guys were airlifted into enemy territory.
Yes.
And dropped behind enemy lines if there was such a thing in Vietnam.
Well, there really wasn't, but you
No, I
just
know
had to
there
really
wasn't, but-
search through the jungle and find these guys. We had a famous saying, but I won't say it. I don't think it'd be proper to say it on
We might be
TV.
able to bleep it out. Who knows? But anyway, it sounds to me like a pretty dangerous job.
Yes, it was a dangerous job. Your life expectancy wasn't very long. That's why they needed quite a few men. So
Few recruits.
recruits, right?
Right, right. So you end up going back there, and I assume you get in some firefights.
I've been in several firefights. I had where we were pinned down for hours and no water, and water was like gold. You know,
Yeah,
it was like being out in the desert. And
Yeah, Jim mentioned that when he was here a little while
Yeah,
earlier.
water
that
was-
water was the
very important. We always carried like two regular canteens and one jumbo.
Mm-hmm.
We traveled light. We didn't travel. We never wore a helmet or a flak jacket over there. I was always traveling light, mostly with ammunition and our radio.
Okay.
And everyone took a chance at the radio. Everybody had to carry the radio because that weighed 35 pounds.
Wow.
So,
And today is probably the size of a cell
oh
phone,
yeah,
right?
it's really nice today, I would imagine. So,
Yeah.
So,
So now you're dropped behind enemy lines and you spot some activity. Now what happens?
well, we basically would radio in to our main base of operation, which would be, they used to call it, I think it was S2, which
Right.
was intelligence. And they tell us what they want us to do. You know, we tell them, well, it's not too active, so we would basically start a fight and try to see how many enemy and what kind of firepower they would have.
So,
So
you guys would go out there and actually start
our job was to
the
make
activity.
trouble. It was trouble.
So
Our
you're
job
like
was
you're,
trouble.
you're like bait sitting out there,
Yeah,
you know, trying to bait the
exactly.
enemy to
Yeah.
come and
Yeah, in some situations, yes, it was.
boy, that sounds like a dangerous job.
It was.
So now you get into these firefights. I assume you're calling in some kind of artillery at times.
There were times we called in artillery. There was one time we called artillery in, and they called it in too soon, and we were still on the ground. And finally we got back to the main base and told them to hold it, you know, as far as
Right.
not shooting, because they hadn't picked us up yet. Otherwise, if we would have been still there, we would have been completely annihilated. All
Right.
of us would have been killed by friendly fire.
Jeez.
So, but fortunately, we were picked up and taken out and taken to another area. So,
Right. So you've got these firefights going on, and you're involved in these, and you've got some wounds, I understand.
yes, I was wounded.
And can you tell us a little bit about what happened?
I was wounded, hit down. Well, I was wounded prior to this. I was wounded. Actually, I was wounded twice prior to this.
Really?
I have 2 Purple Hearts.
Wow.
Well, there's a lot of guys that had many more than that. So, and then what they call the $1 million wound here is where I lost my arm and I was hit down the right side, and that's called the $1 million wound. That's basically the wound that's going to send you home, and there'll
Okay.
be no more combat for you.
But a normal, you know, if you got hit in the arm or something and it was a flesh wound,
Yeah,
you'd probably bundle it up and keep fighting.
that's exactly what they did. They
Yeah.
stitch you up and send you back out.
Wow.
So maybe give you a day off. So.
Jeez. What happened with the arm? Can you?
I can go into a little bit of that. I don't really like to talk about a whole lot. But,
Okay, then
but
I won't.
it's fine. I'll talk. I mean, I was approached the bunker complex. So we went into. It was heavily fortified, and we got really pinned down. It was more active than we realized, and we were already destroying bunkers in the area, but they were older bunkers.
Okay.
Then we ran across some newer bunkers, and they were active, and that kind of pinned us down. I had 3 men that were pinned down by a bunker, and they're kind of seriously wounded. So I had to take the bunker out. I took the bunker out and pulled the 3 men back to what they call a bomb crater at that time. It was
Right.
After B-52s would go in, there'd be bomb craters all over the place.
Right.
But we used that as a place where I could bring them to, and I took them there and took the bunker out. And then we had a load ship that was trying to come in to pick up these these wounded men, and he was hit with an RPG, and it crashed and landed and blew up.
Wow.
But the 3 men that I pulled out are
They
alive.
survived?
They survived. So.
Now, when you say take out a bunker, what do you throw explosives in there, or?
Yeah, you go in, you run up, and you get close to it, and you heavily lay down a base fire and throw in grenades if you
Right.
can get close enough. And
Right.
that's what I did. So.
And there was a ton of bunkers over there, from what I understand.
Yes, there was all.
I mean,
you name it, they had bunkers everywhere, underground. They had all kinds. They had regular field hospitals underground. It
Really?
was mammoth, some of these caves that they have. So.
all hand dug. I
Hand
assume.
dug, yes. These people were really quite industrious. They were able to do quite a bit of stuff.
Wow. So, from there, I assume you go to some hospital and get patched up. And
I was picked up, they weren't able to get to us because we were so heavily pinned down that they had to. I had radioed. Matter of fact, I had radioed for the heavy tank, and they were able to make it in and bust the jungle down from another unit.
oh, really?
They had to bust the jungle down in order to get a medevac in there to get us out.
Wow.
And then they brought the APC to get us out, or me, and they knocked that out with an RPG. So after that, the tanks took over and pretty much took care of the rest of the
Right,
bunkers and
right.
stuff.
I didn't realize that there was too much tank activity over there because of the
more to the
jungles.
north there was. Yeah, more to the north.
Okay.
There was. So then I was, he finally got out. I thought I was going to die, and I could just feel like an hourglass of blood leaving your body.
Really?
And I seen that big red cross from the helicopter, you know, the LZ landing.
Right.
And there was a 90-30 VAC hospital
Right.
that I went to. So
Wow. So, you go to the medevac hospital. Is this like the MASH unit that we
yes,
talked
it's
about?
like a MASH unit.
Okay.
They're all there, and my God, they do the job. I tell you, they strip you down and get right to it. I
Right,
mean, these
right.
people and doctors are really dedicated people.
Right.
And they got me out of there, and then I was eventually sent to Camp Zama, Japan, and that's where I wound up with a lot of my operations and
Right.
stuff. But they had to remove my arm in Vietnam, so.
Right. Right.
So
Well, we certainly appreciate your service,
it's been a pleasure.
and I know you've given a lot for your country.
No
and,
more than anyone else, so
yeah.
as far as a soldier or Marine, Air Force, or Navy. So.
We appreciate your service, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Well, thank you, sir.